Welcome to another edition of the Sitecore PowerShell Extensions training series. Hi, I'm Michael West. Today I'd like to create a function from ground up called Clear SC Archive. This will remove items from the recycle bin by default, and it covers different topics including comment-based help, using comparison operators, creating advanced functions. So as we go through here, you can review the help documentation separately and know a little bit more information about the specifics of every line that we write. And as always, you can download the module at the following URL, check out our blogs, or contact us through Twitter. Now the first thing I'm going to do is test out the function getArchive. So I know this exists in the PowerShell Extensions module. Control E. Pretty simple. And let's check out the help documentation on it. So that was I highlighted, then Control Enter. I can see that getArchive accepts a name. And the one that I want the most is the recycle bin. Those would be items that I've deleted, perhaps in the tree. So we open that up real quick. We'll create a new sample item. Then I will delete it. And if I open up the recycle bin, you see the deleted item. And if I run this command again, now it shows 1. The next step is I want to filter out this list and only get recycle bin. If I use, as we saw, the name parameter, Control E, now we get just a recycle bin, still with 1 item. The next step is to find out more information about the items that come back. So in this case, recycle bin, what's available to use in the recycle bin items. If I do get member, we see get entries. This, I imagine, is going to return each of the entries within the recycle bin. There's a get entry count, so I can check to see how many are available before I try and delete anything. And so now that we know that piece, let's run, let's do a for each loop. For each, I want to create a variable called archive. Okay, what I've done here is I've created for each. This is similar to the for each object. The syntax is slightly different. And I'm returning the list of archives, and each one that is returned will be set to this variable. Similar to a for each loop. I'm sorry, a for loop. So now that I have the archive, I can pass that to getMember. And we see that a SQL archive is returned for each item. And each item I'm referring to is the archive. So there's a name. So basically the same thing that we just did a minute ago. Now if I do archive.getEntries to getMember, okay, so here's the problem. It says that it needs to accept more than 1 argument. So I'm only providing 1 argument. What's really needed is to say the constructor for getEntries require, or the parameters for getEntries requires 2 parameters. One is, I believe, some index, and the second is the count that you want to return. So if I do get entry count, we get an archive entry. Now the first error occurred because the first recycle bin archive did not have any items in it. So getMember is expecting an object and it wasn't returned, so it freaked out. And then the second one, if we recall from our example earlier, has one item in it, and the third recycle bin doesn't have anything in it. We're okay for now. The entry, each entry has an archival ID, an archive local date, and we're going to focus on those in this example. So I'll get rid of getMember, and I'm going to save those entries into a variable. So very simple. Now I'd like to loop over each entry. And to show what I did last time with getMember, we only get one. There was only one item. Had there been two deleted items, we would have seen this appear twice. And once again, we're looking for archival ID and archive local date. We want to use the local date and compare that with the time on the server. So if I say I want it 30 days ago, I want it to check 30 days ago on the server, see if how that compares to 30 days ago on the server with the local item, the local date item. Get rid of getMember. Now we should see the date. It's today at 5:05. I want to compare that with another date. Well, how do we get today's date? Go back up to the top, and I want to create a variable called expired. And I'm going to use a type accelerator. This is basically C# code that has been sort of abbreviated within PowerShell, and which would allows me to do this, date time. You could also do, for example, math, and the syntax would be 2 colons, and then you can look through all these static methods. So we'll go back to date time, and I want to know about today. Really, I want to know now. Run this again, and let's output the result. We see now, and we see when it was deleted. This is the first one, this is the second one. And I want to add days. So with now receiving today's date, I want to add a -1 day, or -30 days, or -90 days, and that will bring it into the past, and then I can compare it with the archive local date. So for example, if 30 days ago would have been last month, if the archive local date is older than that, then it should get deleted. So anything older than 30 days. Therefore I can do add days, -1, and we'll say 30 days. Now you can see July 25th. Pretty easy. I'd like to make this a little more flexible, so I'll create a variable called days, set it to 30, and just as some error checking, I can do math absolute still shows 30 days. If we can continue, I'll go ahead and remove this. now I want to compare this expired date with the archive local date. And if you refer to the documentation on, let me bring it up real quick, about functions. I think it's advanced parameters. No, I'm sorry. Comparison operators. Highlight. Control Enter. We see a list of available comparison operators. I want to know if the archive local date is less than or equal to the expired date. So if it's 30 days or older, delete it. Therefore, I can do less than or equal to $expired. We need to place this in some if condition. And then, if it needs to be removed, I can do archive remove entries, entry archival ID. And once again, this is the Sitecore API. Therefore, you can use .NET Reflector or I think it's .peak, what I showed last time. Or you can use getMember to see what archive contains, which is what I did just a few minutes ago. And if I run it now, oh, that. Okay, let's write a message when it's going to be removed. Okay, it's not going to be removed. If I change the date to 0, which would really be today, removing. Okay, so we'll leave it at 0 for now. And I'd like to take this a little step further. I want to make this a function. And what I mean by that is I want it to be a piece of code that can be called repeatedly, and you just provided the parameter such as days or the archive name such as recycle bin. GetArchive is an example of a command. In this particular case, it's a commandlet, so it's compiled code. But what we're doing right now is basically making a script, and a function lives within a script. So what I'll do is create a function called clear SC archive. And the reason why I'm going to give it this name is I want to ensure that if I create a function, it doesn't collide with an existing one. So for example, if we come out with a clear archive commandlet, well, I don't want your function and our commandlet to combine, because what will happen ultimately is that your function will override the commandlet, but now you can be confused on which one are we using. So we'll create our own little prefix. This is similar to the Active Directory module, where it uses AD, or if you use the Quest Active Directory module, it's the letter Q. If you use any other one, really, any other production module, it's very likely to have a prefix. Okay, what I want to do now is to move all my code into this function. And I'll add some spacing. Okay, still works. However, now that it's in the function, it won't get called unless I call clear SC archive. And just to speed things up real quick, once again, if you refer to the comment, like the comment-based help, if you do the same thing for comparison operators or functions, advanced parameters, everything that was in that slide at the very beginning, if you review that, you can get more details on this function. What we're going to do is create an advanced function. So first off, I start off with parameters, and I want to create a parameter that is a type string, and it's going to be called name, and the default value will be recycled in, and the number of days will default to 30. Then I can get rid of this guy, and if you recall, in PowerShell it's case insensitive, so even though I put a capital D here, these are the same, but when I remove it here, it will use this guy up here. And then if I change this static text to the $name, well, now if you call clear SE archive, by default it'll run under these two parameters, but then I can pass in my own parameters and it will work with that. Okay, whoa, my beagle's breathing heavy over here. Okay, so we're done with this guy. I can call it now clear SE. Okay, so we're going to call clear SE archive. And right now I have no idea what's going on. Right, so I need to add more messages in here. I'm going to write an else. Skipping. And yeah, that's fine for right now. Well, we have nothing to delete, so let me go back to the tree, which is down here. Create a new sample item. I want to delete it now. Say the days equals 0. And removing. Pretty awesome. We can even go further by making this an advanced function. So previously it was just a regular function, now we're going to make it advanced. And I'm going to do that by adding commandlet binding. And with that comes the advanced validation. So I can say validate not null or empty. Yep. And if I put the name equals this, crashes. Cannot validate argument name, it's null or empty. And I could basically restrain the days to be, let's say I want to do between 0 and 90 or between 0 and 180, whatever you want to do. You could play around with that. And the next thing I want to do is to create some help documentation, so in the future somebody comes and reads this, they'll know what's going on. I'm gonna set up this synopsis. And we'll set up let's say an example. SC. And what we have right here is synopsis will appear if you checked help on clear SC archive. And this example will also appear if you check the help on it. Oh, let me fix this guy down here. Okay, had to take my beagle out. She was breathing too heavy in the background. Okay, now I have this comment, and if I want to do help on it, clear SC archive. Hopefully this works. Oh, doesn't exist. I think it doesn't exist because it's not in the run space that it's checking for help. I'll figure that out for the future. But for anyone that's reading your function, this is an excellent way to view the help. In a general sense with PowerShell, if you do this comment-based help, then someone can discover this command, and then they can read examples on how it works, and this is all what you've provided, and it would appear exactly like the built-in commands would work. You could put in a note section. And these are all predefined, so I'm not making these up. I'm not making up synopsis and example notes. These are part of the comment-based help. And as I mentioned before, if you do comment-based help and Control Enter, then it will show you the examples. Here we have synopsis, description, parameter, shows you how to write it. And you can put whatever you want, basically. Okay. And one other thing, now that we have an advanced function with command binding, it supports a parameter called verbose. So what I can do, it's actually a switch. So what I can do here is log, instead of writing it this way, I can do something more on the example of this. Write log, or actually write log is good. That's a built-in commandlet. Really want to do is this guy here. Write verbose. So if I run the command clear sc like this, I can use verbose and it will output this message. If verbose is not there, this message will not appear. This is a great way to document every line of code that you write that you want some type of documentation on, to explain to another developer, another user, that this is what you were intending to happen, and the message that would appear is the comment that you want them to read. However, it can also be output into the command line. And let's try that. So I'll put the days back to 0, and let me go create a new item. We're going to delete it. And to walk through this again, the commandlet binding enables the verbose switch. Then as it's looping through, if the item were to be deleted, this would output. If the item would be skipped, this would be output. So I'm going to switch this to 1, which means it should skip it. Oh my goodness. Not sure what that pop-up was for. If I run it again, it shows that it's skipping. And you can put this all over the place. It's a great idea. Use the verbose switch to filter it out. If you didn't want to see it, just don't put it. And I think that's all for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me on Twitter or comment on the video or whatever you want. Talk to you next time.